Popcorn Therapy, holistic health and wellness through the lens of pop culture. This is a show where we take a dip, sometimes shallow, sometimes deep, into the archetypes, symbols, mythologies, systems, and implications of whatever movie or TV show I am watching this week. I'm Julie Peters. I'm a counseling therapist, a tarot reader, a writer, and a witch. I love to think deeply about pop culture and find out what our stories can tell us about who we are as individuals and as a culture, spiritually, psychologically, physically, and in all kinds of other ways. If you like that too, you are in the right place. Welcome to Popcorn Therapy. Hey everybody, welcome back to Popcorn Therapy. This is part 2 of my conversation on Love is Blind Season 8 with Emily Nimitz. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, you might want to go back and listen to it. We mostly talk about the pods, the quadrangle, attachment issues, things like that, and we're moving on to some of the other couples and the reunion in this episode. So you could listen to them out of order if you want to, but I'd recommend going back and listening to part 1 first, and you'll hear the rest of that conversation that I had with Emily today. Just a little bit of background to set you up for it. I'm bringing my counselor lens to this conversation, and Emily is bringing their perspective as an actor, as someone who's really interested in pop culture, as a queer person, sort of anthropologically exploring heterosexual culture, which we get a little bit more into that today as well. So I'm really excited for you to listen to the rest of this conversation, and I think that's all you really need to know. So let's dive right back in. So let's talk about David. Let's talk about David. So I might get a lot of flack for this, but I actually feel for Dave. I feel quite bad for him. Oh. I've thought of him a lot as like, what if he came into my office and sat down and was like, here are all these issues I have. My read on Dave is that he is an incredibly unhappy person. Like, you know, his eyes were not so much cold and dead, but like really sad. Like it was unusual to see a genuine smile from him throughout the whole thing. He could be a narcissist. Being a narcissist is not a fun way to live your life. Like being a narcissist, underneath narcissism is a very, very intense anxiety and delusion. There's delusion often involved with that as well. I'm not sure that narcissist is what he is. I don't know what it is, but there is something about his inability. Like, it feels like there's so much pressure on him to sort of perform a certain way or look a certain way or be a certain way. And his friends and his sister, if she exists, like whoever this person is, it's almost like other people, he can't operate when other people aren't telling him how he's supposed to be, right? And, you know, maybe it worked with Lauren in the pods for all of those reasons that we talked about. Like this was one safe space where he didn't have his phone, all of these things, he could actually relax a little bit and be himself. But as soon as he got his phone back, you know, there were all of these things about like, oh God, Lauren might have dated someone before. Like it was incomprehensible to me that this is something anyone would care about. And it was incredibly awkward when Nick Lachey was like, everyone put your hand up. It's okay to have a booty call before you meet the love of your life. He like forces everyone to put their hands up to be like this weirdly sex positive moment in a very like, we talked in the last season about how Love is Blind is sort of its own little cult, and it has very strong conservative values. And like, if you get married, you get approval in the cult, and if you don't get married, you can be at risk of like incredible, social ostracism and other things. Anyway, so you know, I do wonder if his sister was just like, you are not going to do well on that show. Like, you are not, you're this sort of guy that's only ever been around Botox. You've never had a relationship before. Like, you're not sure if you're shallow or not. I mean, I feel like it could be some neurodivergence going on somewhere. Like, I feel like there's something just a bit missing for him where he doesn't really have access to reason within himself somehow. And I thought it was fascinating to watch him name all the things that he was doing wrong and do them anyway, right? Mason did that at a certain point too, like early on in the pods when he said something like, I've never broken up with someone ever in my life. I've only ever been broken up with, usually for someone else. And you're like, oh, honey, you are fulfilling that prophecy right at this very moment. Like, why did you put yourself in this
Mm,
situation where that exact thing was going to happen? And he was having this inability to choose between these two women because he just can't say
yeah.
no. Like, I think that's kind of his issue, right? And then we're watching Dave in the pods. He says to Lauren, I realized that I felt terrified because I could see this actually working.
Mm,
And that's what made me decide to choose you. That's a huge red flag. If someone realizes they're terrified to be with you, believe what they're
yeah.
saying. They're terrified to be with you. They're going to find a reason not to
Yeah.
be, right? And so that's exactly what happens. Like, as soon as he finds any reason to be like, this couldn't work, he latches onto it and he cannot let go. Like, I think maybe he even wants to let go, but he is
Yeah.
unable to let go. And then after they break up, he's able to have this whole, insightful conversation with himself about, like, I only want what I can't have. Like, I think I maybe really screwed this up. Like, Lauren is really great. It's not this problem that she was with someone else. And yet he continues to behave in this way,
Yeah.
right? So I actually like, I think we can see a lot of the flaws of Dave. I think he really hurt Lauren. I think I'm not trying to excuse his behavior, but I also, there's a part of me that just feels this empathy for him. Like, I don't think Dave is having a good time. I don't think he's a happy person in his life.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting read on it. Okay, I think at the reunion he came out looking way better than most of the guys on that show. Like I think that his absolute like it seemed like he felt really embarrassed about how he treated Lauren and all it like he did seem to be genuinely like, "Oh my God." And I don't know if that was more of like a I can't believe that the world saw me act like that or that I'm actually genuinely sorry that I treated this woman this way. Um I do feel like, him coming into the pods and being like, "Oh, why are you single? Like, is it because there's something wrong with you?" Like that whole energy, like that there's
That's a bit of a moment too where you're like, do you think you might be projecting a little?
yeah, yeah. Totally.
Because like, and when Nick in the reunion, when Nick Lachey was like, Dave, what's wrong with you? I was like, great question. Like, we could really dive into that question because I think Dave is quite aware that, like, actually there is something kind of broken in
Yeah.
his like severe either avoidant or disorganized attachment, childhood trauma. We never met a single family member or
Yeah.
friend. Like, who are the people in his life? The way he talks about his sister being like, she only let me go on the show if I promised her I wouldn't get engaged. And you're like,
What
hold
do you
on,
mean?
what kind of relationship do you have with your
Yeah.
sister? And I was actually watching that episode with my brother at the time, who was just participating to make fun of it with
Yeah.
me. And I was like, Zach, can you imagine if I tried to tell you like what you could do in any capacity? And he just laughed. He was like, there's not,
No.
never. We would never tell each other what to do. Like, that's
No, that is
crazy.
so crazy to me. Yeah, it did make me kind of be like, what do you mean? But I also, I don't know, because I do feel like he was leaning on that so heavily that part of me felt like, yeah, either it could be that they have a weird dynamic and that his sister truly is like controlling him in this way, or he's really holding on to that as an excuse for why he's behaving the way that he is. And he's really positioning himself in such a way where he's like trying to get Lauren to break up with him. Like it felt like he was going to do anything possible to get her to break up with him rather than just ending things with her because
And he basically admitted that to one of the guys, too. I think he said something like, I was trying to get her to end it, but she wasn't. So I had to.
yeah, like it
He
took a
said
really
something, he
long
like
time. I
confirmed
think
that.
that you know, he he came on just so strong being like, I only date like really super hot women because I work at a med spa or whatever like he does. And so I feel like he is a bit lost in terms of like what is actual intimacy, actual connection, what is actual attraction beyond finding somebody physically attractive. Of course, if you're being given that kind of messaging that it's like this is what beauty is. It's getting a facelift. It's looking this specific way, getting lip injections, da 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 da. Like you might have a bit of an infection of patriarchy of the brain where you might like not really be interested in like
Got it.
seeing what somebody is actually like. And it's also funny to me that it's like I only date these women, and it's but also I've never had a serious relationship, so it's like, oh, but they don't date you. Like that's the thing. It's like maybe you go on one or two dates with these like extraordinarily beautiful model women, but it doesn't seem like they really pick you to stay with, and like that is the thing that you need to work on. So I get what you're saying about the sadness. I do wonder if this is something that he's going to contend with. It did seem like he was sort of doing anything like in his emotional power like to avoid feeling all responsibility, and it's like, oh god, I'm like digging myself deeper and deeper and deeper into this mess. And yeah, he just had to like kind of make it like such an awful scenario for Lauren that eventually they had to end it because like he was treating her so poorly. And yeah, and like all this stuff about the friends, like I don't know, like I still don't feel like he got enough heat for that it was like that he's like, my friends just believed this guy. Why did your friends and everybody in your life believe a guy that they don't even really know over this woman that you allegedly are in love with? Like that to me is like the most egregious part of it, is that like he held on to that so deeply. And I think that it's more of an ego thing, that he was holding on to it because he didn't want to admit that he wasn't attracted to her, or that he wasn't ready for the kind of intimacy that I think that she was ready for. Like I do think that he was like saying those things, and I don't know that they were really true. Like I don't buy it. I don't buy that it was true. I think it was a total I think he's throwing his friends under the bus. I think he's blaming his friends, his sister, he's blaming everybody else to be like, well, no, it's all them, they don't really want me to do all this. When really it's like, no, they probably don't care. Maybe your sister was a bit like, are you sure you want to go on a reality TV? Like everyone's going to see your dirty laundry. Like maybe that's maybe what she said, like we obviously don't know. We never met these people, but it does feel a bit like he was using them as a way to like avoid any sort of responsibility, which yeah, it seems like a bit of a personality disorder kind of situation, whether it's narcissistic or avoidant or whatever. But it was I didn't I don't feel like I don't want to say I don't feel bad for him. Like he definitely's got some stuff that he's got to deal with, but there is a sense of like, okay, this is a guy who's just gonna do whatever it takes to avoid the thing that ended up happening anyway, which was breaking up with Lauren. Like he could have done that way earlier on, but he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question there is, was it conscious on his part that he was doing that or not? Because I think he definitely was doing
Yeah.
that, but it felt to me like it was more of a reflex from his unconscious, whether from a personality disorder perspective or childhood trauma or something like that. Because I don't think it's working
No.
for him. I don't think he's coming out of this feeling any happier. And I think ultimately he is avoiding intimacy. That's what keeps
Yeah.
happening, right? There was actually a moment when Molly and Lauren were talking, and I also love Molly.
Love.
She's another one that like she was just
Queen.
great. But I loved especially just the way she was with Lauren after that whole thing happened. Because even Lauren was a little bit like, oh, Molly's like causing me these issues. And does she know, like Lauren can get in her head
Yeah.
too, right? But at the end, I feel like Molly was so careful to kind of be on Lauren's
Hmm.
side and be honest and upfront with her and all of these things. And they were having this conversation when she said, do you think maybe Dave is a virgin? Like maybe that explains all of this. And they were like, ha 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 ha. But I think that's actually a viable
Yeah.
theory, because he has, again, I think that his fear of intimacy is maybe more severe than some of the others on the show. And it was interesting, again, like I found him just so fascinating in the way that he would name things, but not really be aware of
Yeah.
them. And he was asking every single person, have you had sex yet? Have you had sex yet? Have you had sex yet? Like he needed to know who was
Yeah.
having sex and not having sex in Honduras. And he kept repeating the same thing of like, oh, we haven't yet, but like, I'll be there for her. Like, I'll be there for her when she's ready. And it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't about her being ready. Maybe it was about him being totally freaked out by
Yeah.
that. I actually dated a virgin for a while, and it's interesting because we were not that much older. I mean, I feel like it's way more common to be a virgin like into your 20s, even 30s, than most people know. Like it's actually a relatively common thing that happens. But there's so much shame and stigma around it, right? And so I was dating someone in my 20s who I found out after we broke up that he was a virgin. And I was like, oh, like that's why we were having issues with
Yeah.
intimacy. And like he would get so nervous sometimes about these things. And I was just like, are you not attracted to me? Like, what's going on
Mhm.
here? And like, because he couldn't just explain, like,
This is scary.
because again, patriarchy, it's just like men are supposed to be these stallions that just like want to have sex all the time. And if they don't want to or they don't feel comfortable, there's something not manly enough for him. So he didn't feel like he could say,
Right.
this would be my first time. And I hear my feelings about it. I didn't even know what his feelings
Yeah.
are about it because it's his friends told me about it later.
Oh,
It wasn't even him. Poor guy. But I was just like, oh my God, if you had told me that, and like, that's fine. Like, that would have been no problem at all. Like, that's not something I would have
yeah.
judged or like felt uncomfortable with in any way or like looked at you less than. The thing that made it less than was that he wouldn't tell me what was
Yeah.
going on and he was acting super weird. And I just thought it was
Yeah.
me, right? So I was just like, I guess this isn't working. So I guess we're
Yeah.
done because you're not communicating with me. And I feel like some of that was what happened with Dave, like if he really was a virgin, because I mean, yeah, look at his history, like you say. I mean, maybe he's around all these women who have all this plastic surgery and stuff. I mean, I don't know. I imagine there's lots of different kinds of people that is, but he's trying to date these women. They don't want to. He has the suspicion that he's shallow, which I feel like if you suspect you're shallow, again, maybe it's like I feel like for him, maybe it's not shallow. It's just there's a disconnect somewhere. Like he's not getting it.
Yeah.
Like he can't get to intimacy, right? And so maybe that's something he'd never experienced before. And then, the pressure was on when they were in Honduras and she was like, I got a bikini wax. And he was like, oh God, oh God, oh God,
Yeah.
on the inside. And maybe that was what created all this anxiety for him, is that actually he'd never been like literally intimate in that way and certainly was nowhere close to emotional intimacy. And again, like, not that it's okay the way he treated Lauren and stuff. And I agree with you. I think he was doing all those things that you
Mhm.
said. But also I'm not sure that's working for him. I think it's actually like, you know, not that I think anyone should go and help him out. I think he needs to do that work
Yeah.
himself, around intimacy, but he probably needs some help to do that from like a therapist, like not I don't know that that's something he could do by himself because his awareness is so odd in the sense that he can see it from a distance, but he can't approach it. He can't change it. He can't shift out of it.
Yeah, like he can
And it
name
was
it, but
like,
he
he
can't.
found out that the guy that was with Lauren was lying like 2 weeks before the reunion. And he was like, Lauren, I'm so sorry. I didn't believe you. She's like, it's been a
Yeah.
year. Like, you needed some other guy to tell you that it wasn't true for you to believe me. Like, sorry, that's not a good apology for
Yeah.
me.
And it's like you waited until this public moment to do it. Like, ew. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like I do feel like he's not quite like oh God, who was that guy who was like full blown ugh just horrible guy who from maybe season 3? Shake.
I mean, you have to be more specific than that. What
Which
horrible
horrible
guy? What do
guy?
you
There's
mean? From
many.
what?
It's like in the column of horrible guy, it's pretty much all of them except for maybe two. Um, yeah, that guy, I think his name was Shake. Do you remember?
Oh, sure, shake. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Hmm.
he didn't like that guy seemed to be like manipulative and like misogynist, like awful, bad, bad, bad. I wouldn't categorize Dave in the same sort of space as that. He didn't seem to just like blatantly hate women in the same way that Shake did, but he definitely yeah, has some stuff to kind of get through. And I do yeah, like I saw this TikTok. It was by I think Vulture, like a red carpet. I don't know. It didn't I don't think that it was before the reunion. I don't know what this red carpet event was, but they were asking them like, "What do you want to say to your ex?" And it was like current and previous seasons. And it would like show the person and their ex and they would like say something and he seemed to be just like, I think he thanked her almost. Like if I remember, I might be mixing him up with somebody else, but just like he seemed to be really like, I think she wishes me well and I wish her well. And I'm like, I don't know if she wishes you well, but like he seemed to have a lot of genuine feelings of like it didn't seem like he was this like greasy, gross, manipulative jerk in that moment that I wouldn't categorize him in that same way as some of these other men.
Yeah, for sure. So what do you want to say about Lauren?
Oh, Lauren. Yeah, I mean, the thing that really like I have not been able to get out of my head, and I'm pretty sure this was her, is that she talked about how she had a tattoo that says fuck the patriarchy, or it's FTP, stands for fuck the patriarchy.
I think that might be Sarah.
Oh, that was Sarah?
I think that was Sarah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, still. There was something about Lauren.
It's hard. They're a couple of lovely white blondes. It's sort of hard to tell
Just a
them apart too,
lot
but
of
yeah.
blonde-haired, blue-eyed people with deadness
Yeah.
and cold. No, not even cold and dead, but emptiness. Real scary. Real scary. Um,
The
the
midsummer of Love is Blind
the mid.
seasons.
Oh my god! Truly, truly.
I got the sense that Lauren had the same issue that Madison and Meg had, which was, if I can get this guy to like me, that will prove my lovability. I think maybe it was just holding on a little too long. Like,
Yeah,
what are you sticking around this guy for? Like, what is he bringing to the table? Same question for Ben, same question for Alex, same question for Mason. Like, what are you getting out of these relationships? Like, in watching this season, I definitely got the sense like, wow, it's got to be slim pickings. Like, whether it's this area or the US or whatever it is, it's just like what are you guys, why are your expectations so low? Like your standards are so
hmm,
low for what a man should be bringing to the table. And so I just never, and maybe we didn't see it, right? Like I don't feel like I ever saw Lauren and Dave having fun together, laughing
no,
together, getting along. It just seemed like he was always this cold stick of butter, I
yeah.
guess, and she was just like poking at it, trying to be like, should we do this? Should we do that? Like how do you feel about me? Whatever, and just getting nothing.
Yeah, it did sort of suck that it had to be Dave that ended it. Like, I did sort of wish for her that she would have left that situation a bit earlier, but I also feel like she was kind of positioned in this way of just like needing to prove herself to him. Also, production is involved in those kinds of conversations, so there's obviously like financial incentive to continue on, to stay on the show. There's got to be like coercive elements to that production is involved with that like we obviously don't see, but yeah, I did sort of feel for her that I was just like, "Oh, I really wish you had just ended it with him like it had been weeks of him or however days, I don't know how long it is after they leave Honduras that like he was just trying to like hold this thing over your head that you could have just been like, you know what, like
They were having the same conversation. I don't know how many times. I can't imagine we saw all the times they had that conversation, but they couldn't stop having the same looping
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
and it's like you're not getting anywhere with this. He doesn't believe you. That's bullshit. He should. That and that it takes like a man who he's never met to like convince him of it is like pretty icky. So, it's
And I think for you and me, witnessing someone like the problem he had with Lauren was that she was dating someone, whether seriously or casually, before she went on the show. Like,
yeah,
what? How does that matter in any, like, I can't even get the logic
no.
of that. And it feels like this season, like, there's often quite a few Christians on Love is Blind. Like, maybe it's a cultural thing in that region as well, that people are a little more
Yeah.
conservative. Um, you know, maybe the show is a little more conservative. I feel like, I don't know, it's interesting. They've been showing more conversations about politics, more people asking questions about politics. Who did you vote for? Like, it's kind of nice to see that they're even talking
Yeah.
about that, and they talked about it a fair amount in this
Mhm.
season. But it sort of felt like, it was a very normal common thing to be like, we all go to church on Sunday, everybody goes to church, we don't get divorced ever, like, we hold God in your heart, like, let's pray
Yeah.
together, like all this stuff that I'm not in that culture. Like, I don't, that's just not something that I feel like I am immersed in the way that I imagine some of them are. And so, even that is sort of a weak excuse to have such a big problem with
Yeah.
her. I mean, I don't know. You can even have a boyfriend if you want, and you're just not that into it. So you go on the show and see if you can find something else.
Yeah.
Like, what? I don't
It's
know.
just so weird
It's
to me.
just
And
like
the other thing that
wild
I
that that's the
heard in
problem he had.
the in the TikTok of it all is that she didn't find out that she was going on the show until like maybe 7 days before. Like maybe she was sort of on hold, like wasn't one of the original picks, kind of like people dropped out, she got in. So like that makes it even more like why are you mad about that? Like she literally didn't know. Like it makes it even worse on his part that it's like why does that matter? Like I just yeah, it's so confusing to me. It's literally so confusing to me.
We've had other seasons where someone was
Yeah.
engaged, the whole time that they were on the show, or they had a serious relationship during that time. Like, that's different from, it was just like nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move
Hmm.
on to Sarah. Let's talk about Sarah and Ben. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Sarah is the one that had the fuck the patriarchy tattoo. And that was another moment where, like, I was surprised she kept going with Ben after they had that conversation about Black Lives Matter, and he said, "I just don't have a stance." It's like, you don't have a stance on whether or not Black Lives Matter?
Like
Like,
what are you talking like
what do you
how?
mean?
How? Especially when
He's like, "I just don't know if Black Lives Matter or not. I just haven't thought about it."
actually you're the first person to ask me about that. What? Like what is
I haven't watched the news. Like, George Floyd, I don't know who that
yeah,
is.
and especially that George Floyd was murdered in that town. Like, bro,
Yeah.
what? What? Yeah, just
Yeah.
I think this is a man who is very the kind of like insidious sort of white man who frankly terrifies me, and the way that he was sort of handling the questions at the reunion made it even scarier for me. Like he seemed to be so comfortable just being like, I'm learning and I'm growing. Like, bro, practice these questions. He tried to say the right thing. This is a fuck boy. To me, this is a fuck boy. Um who knows that he should not say certain things because it will get him rejected, and is very conscious of that. I think is like likely very conscious of that. I mean, the fact that Sarah was like, "You wanted to practice questions with me," demonstrates that he has an awareness of his image and how people are going to perceive him. Um, and it was so like he made my skin crawl. I really hated this guy. I think he was the worst guy on the season. Like, ugh.
Yeah, and so she's another one that I was like, what is Ben bringing to the table for her, right? And I think it was love bombing, and I think she named that in the
Yeah.
reunion. Because there was a lot of like big gestures, she was like, no one's ever treated me this kindly before, and all these things. And I feel like you got to watch out for that stuff because the big gestures are not going to
No.
last. Like, people don't have the time and the energy to sort of keep that up forever. You want to look for much smaller things, like the way Daniel really listened to Taylor when she was having her little
Hmm.
spiral. And he was just like, I'm listening to you, I'm paying attention, like, I'm receptive to what you want to say, I'm willing to do whatever makes you feel more comfortable. That's a much more concrete expression of love, I think, than like making you breakfast in bed or
Yeah.
whatever. Because that stuff, so often at the beginning of the relationship, it's just trying to get someone, on your side for whatever reason. And you don't necessarily know if it's love bombing for nefarious purposes, right? Like to kind of manipulate someone into being with you, or for power and control, or whatever it is. Or if it is somebody wanting to give big gestures because they're just really into you. But even that, it's like someone can be really into you. What happens when they find out you're a human being, right? What happens when you kind of settle into that part of a relationship where it's two flawed human beings trying to make a relationship
Hmm.
work, trying to heal their attachment wounds, trying to heal their family systems, right? Like, real relationships, that's the work that starts to happen. It's not just this rainbows and flowers thing. That's very much what the Love is Blind cult is trying to
Yeah.
sell, right? Which is love is this magical thing that's fated and, meant to be and destined. And like, once you find your person and get married, there can be no other problems. All the Love is Blind success stories are like elevated to this point of like, these are the models of all relationships ever. Like, we don't see them bickering and fighting. They must, if they have a real
Yeah.
relationship, that stuff is going to happen. Because that's a part of it, right? That's a part of what relationships are. But the love bombing is definitely, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a red flag, but I'd be looking for other things too, right? I'd be
Yeah.
like, okay, thanks for that gesture, but like, what's underneath that? Like, what else is going on
Yeah,
here?
especially in a
Yeah.
show that is trying to encourage people to have those deep connections. It's like surprising somebody with a present isn't really a deep connection. Like even if your love language is gift giving, like it's one thing to make somebody breakfast, it's another to get a very specific gift. Oh, I was thinking of you. You know what I mean? Like it's not a very deep situation. On the conversation of what Sarah was getting from this is what I had a problem with this relationship from the get-go. And I don't know, again, I'm really struggling with watching this relationship because I can't tell how much of it was producer coerced for her to stay in that situation because I cannot imagine that somebody jumping into the pod being like, "What do you think of Black Lives Matter? My sister is gay and it's important that you care about the rights of queer people." For him to blatantly and expressly explain that that is not within his value system, why is this person staying? And so I have to wonder that it's likely a coercive element. And then there's also this thing, this narrative that Love is Blind loves, which is the love conquers all narrative. And when they say love, they don't actually mean like genuine love. They just mean this concept of love that is almost this patriarchal, propagandized version of love, this fantasy of love that is like, it conquers everything. So it doesn't, people, it's like this whole rhetoric that has come up a lot recently in the past, 10 years around like we can coexist, we can coexist with people who disagree with us. And it's like, I don't think that you can fundamentally be with somebody when those are like core values to you, where Black Lives Matter is so important to you that it's going to be one of the first things that you bring up in the pods, and that your sister is gay, and that it's important that that person not only agrees, but like understands that fundamentally and sees the ways in which these systems are harming these groups. Like if a person doesn't understand those things, that is your core values. Those are like your absolute core values, who you are as a person. I don't think that any sort of love, which like, what do you mean by that? Give me tangible examples, like is going to override any disagreements. Like those are fundamental disagreements. It's like this, in my experiences, like being a queer person, being a trans person. Oh, like, no, I'm sorry, but I cannot coexist with a person who is blatantly transphobic, who wants me to not exist. Like that doesn't work. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't work. There is a right and a wrong in that situation. Um, do I think that people fully understand what they mean when they're transphobic? No, I think that there's education that can happen. Da da da. It's a matter of whether or not they know that they're ready for that. But when somebody just fundamentally names who they are and says that to you blatantly, and it goes completely against your core values, like it is very questionable why you would stay in that. And so I'm like, when I think of this relationship, I've been thinking about it a lot and like what I wanted to say about it. And it's like, on one hand, like I'm sure that one of the producer tactics was to tell her, like, if you stay in this story will be aired and people will see these conversations happening. And, you'll expose this conversation to a public audience that will be able to witness it. I feel like they must have said something like that to her. Or conversely, and perhaps more nefariously, she is a white woman who is straight, who has these values on paper, but doesn't know how to live by them. And we see this a lot where there's, white women overwhelmingly vote for Trump. Like we see these situations where people are in relationships with men who are absolutely egregiously against any values that they believe in. They don't believe in women's rights, queer rights, uh, rights of any racialized minority. Like we see that, and it's like there's a lot of forgiveness and like apologizing. Oh, he's just my husband. And it's like, don't be with those people. Don't be with them. Like, just don't. Like, I'm sorry, but that's a fundamental thing. I think it is interesting that she continued and was maybe either convinced by that, or perhaps this other thing where it's like, maybe you don't really know how to live by your values, if that's what you're saying they are. And I don't want to say that it's definitively either or. I don't know if there's enough information to confirm that. But I think it's interesting that like at the reunion, Nick doesn't say, why did you stay with him? Because they know that there are producers that are coercing them to say there is a financial incentive to stay. So I think it's kind of a messy situation, but I think that it brought to light something really important, which is like, you can't be with somebody who just fundamentally disagrees with who you see as having rights in this world. Like that's just not going to form a good foundation for a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we saw such a similar parallel with Virginia and Devin. Um, and I feel like I have to say that might have been my favorite wedding episode of any Love is Blind season I've ever
Yeah.
seen. Because usually you're watching these weddings and it's like blah blah blah, we love each other so much and let's do the
Yeah.
montage and then it's like takes forever and then they're like yes I do or
Yeah.
like no I reject you or whatever. And I feel like we've seen so many seasons of this show where men have rejected women at the altar, humiliated them, whatever it is. And this season was the season of women not taking that shit
Yeah.
anymore. Like it was so satisfying to see all these women be like, that is not enough for
Hmm.
me. You don't know what you're talking about. Like it's not okay that you didn't take a stance on Black Lives Matter. It's not okay that you're using your Christian faith to avoid thinking for yourself around who you're going to vote for. And I loved seeing Virginia kind of actually bring forward her values in that last episode because I feel like she was just not a cool girl necessarily, but she was just so kind of relaxed about everything that was happening, and she would kind of bring up these questions with Devin. There was that moment where she said something like, I think women have the right to choose, whether they should carry a pregnancy or not, and he said something like, well, in my faith, like we don't, I forget what he said, but he was just like, do you have any thoughts about that or no? It was just this awkward moment of like, they're not going to continue to talk about that. And so for Virginia, was it a similar thing where from early on she was just like, ooh, like this is not okay with me, I don't like this, but she kind of couldn't really speak her full mind until after the weddings had actually happened, and she was like, no, that was a no
Yeah.
for me. Because even early on in the pods, when Devin was still choosing between Brittany and Virginia, and Brittany, so it was such a funny moment where he was like, doing that dumping thing that you were talking about before, where he's just like, I'm going to tell you this biggest trauma of my life, and I was severely
I
addicted
mean,
to ibuprofen or whatever it was. Like, okay. And he's like, I went into this dark place. It was just really intense, and like kind of sharing all this vulnerable stuff. And then she was like, okay, thank you for telling me that. Like, I fully support you. So my thing that I want to tell you is I'm bisexual. And he was like,
yeah.
oh, I don't know. Like, he just had this super weird reaction to it where he's just like, I don't know if I'm okay with that. And, poor Brittany, like I felt like the way she explained that was so apologetic, like, I would never marry a woman and all these things. Like, I feel like she was sort of trying to explain it away, even as she was talking. She must have had an intuition that he wasn't going to be okay
Yeah.
with it. But it was just what a moment of entitlement that like he's allowed to kind of dump on her all this stuff and have these flaws or whatever it is. And I mean, how we should be looking at bisexuality as a flaw, but obviously that's kind of how the narrative was going, in that moment. And I loved that Brittany came back the next day and she was like, so that's a no for me,
Yeah.
bro. Like, no, I'm good. I'm good on that. And then Virginia, I mean, I don't know how much she would have known about that, but she was just going along with it, and like they continued on right until the very end when she was finally able to say, like, how interesting to have all these people at before the wedding. They're like, you're going to be a wife, we're so excited for you, we love Devin, you should totally do this,
Yeah.
like. And then everyone left, and there was that moment where she was alone in the bridal suite, and you could kind of see on her face that something was going on. And I just loved that she listened to her gut in that moment and was just like, this is not okay for me. I'm also reminded when you were talking about that too, the sort of way that Love is Blind talks about love. I think it was season 7, Hannah's mom. Hannah said something like, Nick and I, we don't match intellectually. We don't match in terms of sense of humor. We don't share the same hobbies. Like, we don't have any of these things in common. And her mom said, well, none of that matters if you love
Yeah.
each other. And it's just like, where did you get the idea that none of that matters? That's insane. How are you supposed to live with somebody? Like,
Yeah.
anyway, it's just crazy. So I have to say, there was something about watching this season, those weddings, post Trump's reelection, which I know it was filmed before that, but I sort of had this feeling when Trump was reelected, like, ooh, a lot of women are gonna be having some problems with their marriages if their men are not clear about their values in terms of women's rights and things like that, because this is really coming up out of the
Hmm.
woodwork. And I could sort of predict a lot of divorces this year, or just women in those kinds of partnerships being like, this isn't enough for me anymore. And it was so satisfying to finally see all those weddings where these women were like, no, no, I'm not doing this. It was
It was
great.
so great. Yeah, it was so great. And especially not just that they said no, but that they like named the reasons why. That was basically just like, this is an unprincipled person who does not have opinions. And that is a problem in this world. And it was like, yeah, with Virginia, I was like so glad for her to name that. And then again at the reunion, like, it did seem like there was like an odd amount of heat on her, and I was like, "Girl, you're perfect. Shh, we love you. Like, I love you so much." Devin is
Yeah.
a like a flop. That is a flop of a guy, and you are amazing. And I loved how she was just like, "Let me be very clear. I'm not going to speak on his behalf, but this is what I believe." And it's just like, well, we can
Yeah.
infer what he believes, but I also feel like he
Yeah.
doesn't actively believe those things. He's just been indoctrinated into them and passively believes them. And that's how I felt about Ben too, is that, the fact that I don't know if it's true that he didn't know what his church believed about gay marriage. Like his answer of like, maybe I was away that day. It's like, you weren't away. Like, no, you weren't. You prayed with your boys, like with your heads together for God for fatherly God to like help you through the Love is Blind breakup, and you were had this terrifying smile on, just being like, it's fine. Jesus loves me. Like, bro, you're at church every week. Like, don't try to pull that. Like, he said something like, I think they just have really good values. They don't. They expressly were like, pro conversion therapy. Like, what are you talking about? They don't have good values, which means that you are an absolutely unprincipled, spineless loser. And it was just nice for these things to be like exposed in this way, and for these women to be able to stand up for themselves, but also for the people in their lives that they love and care about. Like they stood up for communities, and it was so nice to see that, as rocky as it was kind of getting there.
I mean, his not knowing was a cop out,
Yeah.
right? Like, he used not knowing to give him space and the benefit of the doubt and so on. And I agree with Sarah to a degree that, like, of course, we don't have to agree on absolutely everything. Um, it can't be core
Yeah.
values, but it can be on other things, or you can have different opinions, or have conversations where your opinions are changing, or you're thinking about things in a different way. That's something I really value, is being able to have those conversations where it's like, I'm actually not sure where I stand on this. What do you think? And like, here's a thought that comes up to me. What do you think about that? I think that's really valuable. And I love having people in my life that I can talk to like
Yeah.
that, because I don't have it all sorted out. I don't always know exactly what the right thing is or whatever. And it's through those conversations that I often figure it out. And I feel like saying I'm not sure, or maybe I was away that day, or I just don't want to have a stand on that, is like, it could give Sarah enough room to kind of be like, okay, well, maybe we could talk about it. Maybe he just hasn't been exposed or whatever it is. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of fair, but at the same time, it went on a
Yeah.
while. It went on
And
a
there was
while.
a bit of
And
like
like, I
a
loved Sarah's family too. Like, her sister was so great. And her sister's partner, who was just like, I hate this, but we support you and we'll be there for you no matter what you, what you want to do. Like, they were really lovely
Yeah, I
people,
loved her
I
family. Oh my
thought.
gosh. I think for folks who are directly impacted by people like that, or who maybe are a bit more involved in their activism, like we see those things as dog whistles. Like we know when somebody says, I must have missed that day at church. We know that that is somebody who is like kind of just trying to avoid putting a spotlight on their beliefs and having to name them out loud in front of cameras and people. Like we can tell what that is. But yeah, if you're more of just like, I'm an ally, woo, like maybe you're not, maybe you are sort of like, well, maybe I'll give the benefit of the doubt. But I do feel like it really calls to question this narrative that Love is Blind that tries to push home. It's like, what does Love is Blind, and like what does the general public, or what does like the sort of heteronormative culture think love is, if they don't understand that, like, it's like understanding that Black lives matter, or that queer lives matter.
It's holding God first in your heart, obviously. What else could it possibly be?
Well, it's obviously walking hand with God, and we walk with God, and then Father, and then husband, and then me.
It's doing the scriptures. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm like, what do we think love actually is? Like, if you pull it all apart, like, what do you think it is to connect with somebody and to see them and witness them? Like, that is part of like what, like, I don't want to like get down a huge wormhole with this, but like that's what these liberation activism movements are about. Like this is bell hooks 101. If somebody doesn't understand that Black Lives Matter and they're okay with the violence, the systemic violence that's enacted towards Black people, there's a violence that they're permitting which is inherently not love. Like that is the opposite of love. Love is not violent or hateful or any of those things. And that passivity is actually like a perpetuation of that violence. So it's like, to me, you know, those fundamental core things like are part of what love is. But okay, if we take that out of it, like on the day to day, what do you think it is that makes love love?
I think Love is Blind thinks it's getting married and having pretty Instagram posts.
Yeah.
And having babies, you know. And I think, you know, that's such a good point about the way Bell Hooks talks about love in this larger perspective where love is an action, right? Like she talks about love as a verb. It's not this thing you fall into. It's this thing that you enact, right? And I think from that perspective, yeah, we're all indoctrinated into capitalism, patriarchy, and white supremacy. And many of us benefit from it without realizing that we do. So love in action would be being able to examine a little bit what that means or where that comes from or what your privilege is doing for you, right? And having that awareness, you know, from Ben's perspective that like, okay, if you've really never thought about this before, you're going to be sitting in some shame for a while if you're like an empathetic human being. Because it's true, like that inaction and that passivity is violence. Because there are people whose very lives are affected by the fact that you've never thought about it. And so then, you know, we don't stop there. Then it's like, okay, what are you going to do about that? Like there is a lot of value in talking about it, thinking about it, you know, and obviously just like at a very foundational level, adjusting how you vote around these things, right? Which obviously we're in a situation where, we're, you know, in the US and a lot of other places too, we're looking at how people are voting and we're like, whoa, okay, these systems are, maybe we were under the illusion that these systems were, you know, on the ebb, but they're actually still incredibly powerful. And so it matters that we think about things and talk about these things. And I think there can be a lot of value in what Ben appeared to be doing, which is like, let me check my privilege. Like, let me think about why I didn't know about what my church's values were around the LGBT community. And then, okay, you know, if you love your church and you're involved in your church and that's a problem for you, maybe you speak up about that, right? Like maybe you talk to your church about that. Maybe you find a way to think about like, what would Jesus have actually said about this? You know, like, would Jesus have really been like, these people are not okay and don't deserve to live their lives? Like, no, it's so, yeah, it's frustrating because like the foundation underneath Christianity, like the spirit that underneath it is supposed to be loving of everyone. And that's just not how the church, like the sort of, the system has been, because there are powerful people who have benefited from certain, you know, laws and regulations and exclusions and things like that. That's not just Christianity. It's like any system that you subscribe to in this way can tell you what to think, right? And when a system says these are our values and these are the values that you have to have in order to fit in with us, you don't have to do any thinking for yourself, right? But if you actually think for yourself, which I think Virginia and Sarah were very much doing, and I liked the way Sarah was often like, I don't have this all, you know, correct or whatever. Like, I don't always know, but this is really important to me to like think about it and so on. I think that's a great perspective to have. And Virginia too, like, yeah, you can still have that faith or whatever it is. It's just, you have to actually think for yourself. And a lot of the women on the show were, and a lot of the men were not. I think the only couple we haven't talked about is Monica and Joey.
Right. I forgot about them.
Because for me, they were like the most boring, cringy couple throughout the whole thing. We were just like, fine. Like these two are annoying, but They seem happy. Like, let's leave them alone. And then it was like the episode before the weddings, or maybe the weddings themselves, when all this stuff started coming out about how, sort of recognizing like, oh, what serious conversations have these two had? And I guess Joey's sister had died. I kind of missed that. Like, there was all this stuff in his family that I don't remember them talking about that in
Yeah.
the pods. There was a deleted scene apparently that, that we saw on TikTok that his family was like, Joey has been anti-marriage. He has not wanted to get married before. He's had trepidations about it. Because like,
Yeah.
what? Like, I've never heard this before. They were, oh, at the reunion, I hated the way that he was like, oh, once we were physically intimate once, like, don't get it twisted. And you're just like,
Oh,
ugh, like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, we were friend zoned because your sister didn't like me. Like, really? You're gonna blame it on Monica's sister that's why you were in the friend
yeah.
zone? Because you weren't accepted, because someone didn't accept you, and so therefore you had to reject someone? Like, it was just such a weird way of responding to
Yeah.
that. And so, I found him sort of harmless and dorky at first, but by the end I was like, that long hair, I just want to cut it off. And I want to take that longboard and throw it out the window. It's just like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, went from like charming
Because yeah,
idiot to like
it was weird.
full
Like,
villain in the course of that season. Like, hate
yeah.
everybody hates you now, bro. Like by the end, like, ooh, you should have done the PR training that some of these other guys did because you clearly didn't.
And there was something too about like, okay, longboard. I have a personal issue with longboarding, which is that I had a boyfriend for a while who, it's a whole complicated thing, but it was a lot of like trying to make me into someone that I'm not. And part of that included getting me a longboard and getting me a bunch of skater girl clothes, which has never been my style. I am a witch. I always have been. You don't make me into a skater, okay? And I, after we broke up, out of spite, continued to longboard because I was like, I can do this. And then I fell so many times and hurt myself because I'm a very long-bodied person and I'm just not stable on a longboard. So I will always hate longboards. Personal vendetta, nothing to do with other people, but seeing Joey longboard down the aisle and into the reunion with his exact same hair that he never brushed or washed once in a year is the same.
Like,
Like,
why didn't he
try
slick
a
it
man
back and
bun,
like,
cut it, like do something else with it, slick it
yeah,
back. Like, it doesn't have to always look like that. Anyway, personal issues with Joey, but I felt for Monica because she seemed pretty cool and like genuine and sweet, and I don't know, that was just, it was, he yeah, weirdly threw her under the bus right at the end and didn't like him
yeah,
either.
yeah, did not like him. There was something that I noticed at the beginning. When they met each other, first of all, I was like, who are these people? Like, why? Like, we're already seeing a wedding and I don't know anything about these people. Um, and they had like Wayne's World energy at the beginning. Like they kind of were just like, ha ha ha, ha. Like didn't really have any like they just kind of seemed like two dummies, like who just were like himbo and bimbo. Liked her a lot more by the end, but when they met, physically their bodies were like repelling from the waist, like the way that they were like laughing
Right,
hysterically, and they were both just like had their butts sticking out, being like, ha ha ha.
right,
I was like,
right,
neither of you wants to be here. You hate that you did this.
right.
Like the body keeps the score, and it's like,
Body keeps the
excuse me,
score.
girl, the score is 0. Like, get out of there.
Sometimes giggling is
Yeah.
nerves, right? It's like sometimes giggling is like, I actually feel a bit
Yeah.
unsafe. So yeah, it was
That's what I felt about it. Was she
awkward.
was like danger, 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 and it was like her mind was like, and her body was in disbelief that she put herself in that situation, and she's like, I'm committing to this. Like, I really was like, oh, you poor girl, you do not want to be there. You do not want to be there. But I did sort of wonder. I was like, are they going to get married? They might. But so I thought it was interesting that they didn't, and then to see how he was after that, I was like, ugh, like. Ugh.
Yeah, I sort of missed a lot of that. It didn't really occur to me that they never kissed or touched or had any of that sort of sexual energy between
Yeah.
them. And it was interesting at the wedding when, when she was talking to her family and friends and having these serious conversations, and he was just throwing a football around with these dudes who were like, "Do you think she can handle this?" It's like, you don't think she can handle like a foot, like,
Like
what do you
handle
mean?
what, honey?
It's
Like what do
just
you
like,
like You think you like this big heavy thing she's gonna need to handle? Like, what about this is gonna be difficult? Please explain.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, we're very proud of Monica for having that moment where she was like, I realize that my answer is reliant on his answer, and I recognize that's a problem for me. And then I loved what she
Yes.
said when she was just like, I actually, this is a no for me. I'm not feeling what I need to feel here. And yeah, I was proud of her for that. And then of course Joey was like, same, same. I was gonna say the same thing.
Like,
You're like, okay,
all
Joey.
right, yeah.
Sure you were.
Nobody asked you actually, so
Nobody asked you. We didn't need your answer.
yeah, yeah, your answer, we don't care.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Love is Blind. We'll probably put this in 2 parts because we're just having so much fun talking about it. It's
Yeah.
a bit long. So we'll do a part 1 and part 2. And yeah, am I missing anything? Is there anything that we need to
I don't
talk
think
about?
so. I think we got all of it. Did I say Madison's my girl? Yeah, I did. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. We love Madison. We're on Team Madison.
Kiss me.
Yeah, we believe you. We would date you.
Get your pink hair back and get over here.
We're on your side, Madison.
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So thank you so much, Emily, as always, for long distance watching and texting while we're getting through these seasons and having this lovely conversation. And yeah, we'll catch up again next time when we do Nosferatu, which is coming up.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we'll find a time to do that one. I have been desperate to talk about this movie for a while, so we'll get to that one next. And yeah,
sounds
see you
good.
then.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching or listening to this episode of Popcorn Therapy. I recently put these episodes on YouTube as well as on Spotify and Apple Music. So if you want to see our faces as we are talking about these things, you can do that over at YouTube, where I've also got a bunch of yoga classes and a few videos on tarot and things like that. So feel free to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's lots of content there for you as well. You can also leave me a tip if you want to. I've decided, I'm not going to really do the Patreon thing. I'm not going to do subscribe or anything. This content is free. I love doing this podcast, but it's just me. I'm recording, editing, producing, all the things on my own, and of course have my wonderful guests who come on with me as well. So if you feel like leaving me a tip, if you just feel like you want to help a sister out a little bit, you can go to paypal.me/Ocean and Crow, which is the name of my business, though you've probably never heard it before because it's mostly just my name. Please share this podcast wherever you have friends who might want to listen to this stuff. Share it, like it, follow it, subscribe, all of those good things. Really helps me out as well, just to sort of get the podcast in front of more people. And just really appreciate you all for listening and being here with us. And we'll catch up with you next time.